everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our session today on putting the power of technology and data firmly into the hands of smallholder farmers. My name is Claire Rhodes. I'm the CEO of Producers Direct, and I'm very proud and honoured to be facilitating today's panel. The three key areas that we'll be focusing on today are: what are the key challenges that smallholders are facing in relation to accessing and using data and technology innovations? What are the opportunities that data and agtech services can provide for smallholder farmers, especially when designed well? And thirdly, sharing ideas and examples on ways that our panel today has been working together through farmer-centered design processes to overcome some of the key challenges smallholders face in relation to digital tool access, digital literature, and digital confidence. We'll be hearing from our fourth panelists, and then we would love to open up the discussion to you all to share your ideas and questions. So please do have your questions ready for us and share them in the chat. But first things first, I'm delighted to introduce our panel, who collectively bring expertise across all of the areas that we'll be discussing today. So firstly, Kenneth Agaba, who crucially is a smallholder farmer himself and a youth leader. We're extremely grateful to be benefiting from his perspective today, given that his personal experience as a smallholder farmer needs to be at the center of all of these conversations. Kenneth is from the smallholder producer organization Kayonza Growers Tea Factory in Uganda, one of the producer partner organizations that we at Producers Direct have been working with since we were founded in 2009. As I was saying, Kenneth is a youth leader with fantastic knowledge and a love of agriculture, as well as an exceptional commitment to working with youth and smallholder farmers within his community to modernize agriculture. And this is on top of all of the farm enterprises that Kenneth is running himself, including fish farming, beekeeping, and pig rearing. Secondly, Christian Bunn, Associate Scientist with the International Centre for Tropical Agriculture, CIAT. Producers Direct has been working with Christian and the CIAT team since 2017 to look at how to bridge the connection between the fantastic insights and data that's been generated by CIAT and how this can be shared with smallholder farmers in a clear, actionable format. Since 2010, Christian has been working at the intersection of data and improved decision-making for climate action across coffee and cocoa sectors in particular, and has been doing exciting work over the last few years to understand the power and potential of using AI data analysis to amplify expert knowledge. Thirdly, Alex Nana Simcam, Senior Program and Partnerships Lead with IDEO.org. Producers Direct has had the pleasure of working with Alex and the IDEO.org team for a number of years, and we've benefited hugely from IDEO.org's expertise on how to effectively center users, particularly smallholder farmers, at the heart of design and innovation processes, some examples of which we'll be sharing more about with you today. And so Alex leads program, partnership, and design strategy for IDEO.org's Nairobi studio. Lastly, but definitely not least, Davis Kasumbi, Youth Agribusiness Coordinator with Producers Direct. Davis is a passionate and driven agri-entrepreneur with experience in the agriculture and horticultural sector. His entrepreneurial spirit and vision for empowering youth and women in Kenya led him to set up AfriFresh, a thriving youth-led business focused on fresh produce sales, growing, aggregating, and supplying fresh produce from medium and small-scale farmers in Africa to markets in Europe and Asia. We were delighted that Davis joined our Producers Direct team last year. And since then, Davis has been working with Kenneth and our network of youth leaders across Producers Direct smallholder network in East Africa to lead our work on designing data and technology services for youth and smallholders, as well as championing youth entrepreneurs and building a network of youth leaders to support the delivery of Producers Direct services to farmers, more of which we'll hear about from Davis later. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for being here today. And it's such a pleasure to be working with you all on this. Now, before I go across to our panelists, I'd like to spend just a few minutes sharing a bit of context to frame our discussion today. Worldwide, there are 1 billion smallholder farmers who are collectively responsible for 80% of the world's food and commodities. The potential for digital innovation to transform the livelihoods of these 1 billion smallholders is huge. Yet, as we know, the benefits of big data and AI still remain largely inaccessible to these 1 billion smallholders. So when we talk about putting the power and technology and data into the hands of smallholder farmers, what is it that we really mean? What is the reality for these smallholders? And therefore the context in which we're looking to design these data and ICT solutions. So as you'll see from the slide, from the majority of the world's 1 billion smallholders, this is their reality. Smallholders face significant, numerous challenges on a daily basis, such as climate change, and face these risks with limited connectivity and with limited access to external data. If we think about usage of digital data, this is a typical data management system for a smallholder farmer, as you'll see from the next slide. Thanks. A lot of digital agricultural technologies, including some that we as producers directed developing, are designed for use on smartphones. If we could go into the next slide, just something to remember. So smartphone ownership and usage still remains really low. Even if smallholders own a smartphone, they're likely not using it to access the internet. 3.4 billion people who live in areas covered by mobile broadband networks are still not using mobile internet. And typically with Producers Direct, across our network, we still see farmers trusting SMS and radio most when it comes to digital information channels. We worked with Busara on a recent survey of 500 tea farmers in Kenya and found that while 54% of those farmers did own a smartphone, they're mainly still using it for phone calls, not SMS, not social media, and not the internet. Also, a key challenge is access to finance, as you'll see from the next slide. Access to finance for smallholder farmers remains extremely limited, especially for women. And this financial risk remains a key barrier to innovation and experimentation with new technologies. If a farmer is unclear whether or not trialing a new technology is going to bring them any additional economic benefit, why would they take the risk of investing time in testing it without having a financial cushion in place that allows them to innovate and experiment? So recognizing all of these challenges, how do we design effective digital and data solutions for farmers? And next slide, please. So we at Producers Direct are experts in designing and delivering farmer-led solutions. At the heart of our model is working with smallholder farmers to design both in-person and digital solutions from the foundation of farmers' reality, knowledge, and experience, with the ultimate aim of improving farmers' livelihoods through income improvement and enhanced resilience. So overall, since Producers Direct was established in 2009, we've worked with the network and benefited the livelihoods of over 1 million smallholder farmers across East Africa and Latin America. And before going to the panel, I'd just like to introduce you to a couple of examples of the digital and data products we're currently working on, which our panelists will share more about. And next slide, okay. So product design has to start from the farmer's reality. Most of the farmers in our network are much more comfortable using pen and paper than a phone. And so as you saw from the last slide and the farmer logbooks, that's where we start. If we could go to the last slide, please. In the example that you see on the left, we've been working with farmer design groups to test a variety of paper-based logbooks to support farmers to understand the value of the data they already have for making on-farm decisions. And we've been working with youth leaders within the community to support the digitization of this data in order to feed it back to farmers in formats that support them with on-farm decision-making. Next slide, please. At the same time, we're designing for the next generation, and this is where we're focusing on smartphone design. So in the same survey that I mentioned that we did with Busara, 81% of young women that we surveyed owned a smartphone. So we also have to be designing for that reality. And so Croppy is one of our smartphone-based products that we're currently designing and are particularly excited about. The goal behind Croppy is to enable smallholder farmers to benefit from the power of AI-generated yield predictions, while at the same time providing an innovative way of collecting unique real-time data from smallholders to support the ground truthing and further training of these AI models. The idea behind Croppy is that a smallholder farmer takes a photo of their crop and immediately receives a yield prediction back, which over time will be paired with agronomic and financial advice to enable them to take action on the basis of the yield prediction data they receive in order to support them with shorter and long-term farm planning. So we've been working in partnership with CIAT and IDEO.org, as well as our farmer networks in Uganda, like Kenneth, and Peru, to design and test Croppy. And we were delighted to be Inspire Challenge winners for Croppy in 2020. And now, particularly, we're really grateful to GIZ for their support to test and scale up our Croppy prototype over the next 2 years. And as many of us know, Working with farmers on product design and testing takes time, patience, and investment. And so we've really valued working with all of our funders who've appreciated the importance of investing in farmer-led design and interactive prototyping, such as we're doing now for Copy with GIZ, and also with the World Food Programme Innovation Accelerator on my second example that I'll share now, Farm Direct. Next slide, please. So this is the second example, Farm Direct. It's a digital platform designed to digitally replicate the benefits of being part of a cooperative, particularly for female farmers who typically remain marginalized from traditional farming cooperatives. Next slide, please. A key challenge for female farmers who focus on growing food crops is that when they have surplus to sell, they sell their surplus typically informally into unstructured markets, and often sell individually, as you'll see from the slide, which leaves them with little power on price negotiation with buyers. So Farm Direct is being designed to support farmers to digitally aggregate their surplus food crops and sell their crops collectively, as you'll see from the next slide. In order to support farmers to enhance their market access, particularly female farmers, and collectively negotiate better prices with buyers. And Davis and Kenneth have been doing a great job on working with a network of farmers and youth agents to design and test this market access functionality of Farm Direct. And we'll share more about that later. So those are just a couple of initial ideas to kickstart our discussion today. And now it's time to hear from our panel. And so first, I'm going to go to Christian. And Christian is going to share more on some of SEAT's work to support smallholders to benefit from the research and data they're generating, particularly in relation to climate change. So Christian, over to you. Thanks so much. Christian, just checking you all okay? Oh gosh, okay, we've got a tech challenge with Christian. So in that case, we'll wait and hear from Christian a bit later. And I will just go to Kenneth. Kenneth is going to share with us today, right from the heart of working with smallholders and being a smallholder himself. Kenneth is going to share some of the challenges that smallholders face directly when testing digital tech and technology. Or do we have Christian back? Okay, sorry. Okay, Kenneth, we're excited to hear your insights. If we could hear from Christian first, that would be great. Christian, over to you, and then Kenneth, I'll go to you after that. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Sorry, I was not allowed to unmute myself, so there was literally nothing I could do. Yeah, thank you, Claire, for the great introduction. I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to see a few people who've we already collaborated with in the audience. So yeah, okay, let's get started. What we are excited about at the Alliance of Biodiversity International and the International Center for Tropical Agriculture is climate change. We come from since 10 years, we were leading within the CGIAR the climate change activities of our research consortium, and building resilience to climate change, supporting adaptation to climate change, it is what moves us. My work particularly is around coffee and cocoa agroforestry systems and how to design inclusive solutions for smallholder to get to a more resilient sector. Now the problem, the big challenge that smallholders are facing with climate change is that really climate impacts are not heterogeneous across space. The impacts and the consequences climate change will have on producers depends on their location. It depends on the changes in precipitation will not be the same everywhere, and the changes in temperature will be different across locations, and what that means to their key crop will also differ across space. So at the same time, we do see that So blanket recommendations won't do it. There are a lot of people walking around trying to promote a single solution for all of these issues, when really we're talking about a complex system and a complex interaction with climate change. At the same time, we're seeing that smallholders across the world in coffee regions and cocoa regions are already being impacted by climate change. We're seeing storms, hail, extreme rainfall, drought, unseasonal rains, unseasonal drought, and all of that leads to crop losses. So usually farmers have their ways to build resilience to climate hazards, but now these climate hazards are changing, and these changes are not linear. They are sometimes hard to anticipate. So that means most of their traditional knowledge that they have is somewhat limited in the usefulness to adapt to build resilience to new climate change. So the way out we're suggesting is to integrate data analysis into the decision-making process, and use all that scientific knowledge that we have about climate change and climate impacts, and make it as accessible as possible to the producers so that they can take better informed decisions. Now we've come in the last 10 years or so, we've come a long way in terms of learning. You know, when we started, this was mostly an academic exercise. It was about looking into the future, using global climate models and understanding what the world may look like in 20 years. Now, we came to realize that we need to start action now. Most of these adaptation solutions have a very long lead time. Coffee systems have a very long lead time of 10 to 20 years. Planting a shade tree takes time. So we need starting now, and leaving our work in the academic sphere and publications will not be enough. So we came to policy briefs, we came to trainings, we were participating in conferences, we're giving talks at stakeholder conferences. But it was very, what we realized is that without specialized capacity, it remains hard to understand what our findings, our academic work means to the real world. It is complex. Everybody's talking about a 1.5 degree change, a Celsius increase in temperature, but what that means for people's lives on the ground is often very abstract, and nobody really knows how it concerns. So we came to realize that we need to get our data really into the hands of people and try to make it as have the data speak to people and their own decisions. So our last attempt, which we launched last year, is shown here on the slide, acclimatare.org, which is an interactive platform where our climate data, our risk data, our hazard data can be visualized in an interactive way. You can access it for your region of interest, for your municipality where you want to work, and towards the end, you can receive a report which includes action options. So it's really key to not only present people with the risk you're facing, but also give them something into their hands where they can start to build resilience. Now, the problem being that we need to get to millions of farmers, and this platform still requires some kind of knowledge. So we're really using it for training of trainers. We advertise it to cooperatives, and then these cooperatives still need to go out to the farmers and work out individual adaptation plans with all of these. So what we're now doing in the Croppy project, which Claire just presented, is to go one step further. we need to get all of this information that we have, climate hazards, climate solution, climate smart adaptation options, and an individualized interpretation of all of what this means into personalized portfolios of adaptation options and risk assessments, so that people can make better informed decisions. So we're really excited about this collaboration, because we're finally getting to this last mile of really getting to the farmers. And what we're excited about is that in this project, we were also able to build in a component that provides us feedback. But yeah, with that, I'll have it handed back to Claire, and I'm not sure who's next.
Thanks so much, Christian. And no, it's fantastic to just have an insight into the wealth of data and knowledge that CIAT has. And I think it's really exciting to go from kind of hearing about all of that to actually talking to Kenneth, who is kind of, you know, sort of really facing these realities on a day-to-day basis, and is doing amazing work to look at how data and technology are kind of potential solutions to some of these challenges farmers are facing. So Kenneth, I'd like to hand over to you. Hopefully the mic is working well. And Kenneth is based in rural Uganda, so please bear with us if we have any connection challenges. But Kenneth, welcome, please.
Thank you so much, Claire, for the opportunity. I'm so happy to present here from Uganda, and I'm so happy that I'm a farmer myself, working with smallholder farmers around Kayonza Growers Tea Factory and Kanungu district in general. I'm so happy to have also producers direct. It has done wonders when it comes to smallholder farmers, and we are still sure that we can go forward when we still interact and give hands-on experiences on such platforms. There has been a very, very huge gap between the known and the unknown in terms of data in the world. And this has also, it has also changes in the needs of the farmers in regards to technology and places where they thrive. More especially, technologies in the West are far advanced than technologies within the developing countries. But however, the weaknesses of the developed becomes the strengths of the developing in terms of agriculture, and therefore there has to be a great understanding of smallholder farmers, their impact on their challenges, especially on capacity gaps through the needs assessment. These challenges have brought disparities in quality assurance mechanisms due to lack of information and the continued oppression by the middlemen in all various agricultural value chains. Quality manipulation has also been showcased, which has also led to many farmers abandoning their plantations, as well as young people looking at farming as a dirty work, yet they are the biggest consumers of the food that is produced by the aging population. So there is a big need for these smallholder farmers to critically understand the solutions based on data and technology that may work for them for their future farm sustainability. I'm therefore happy today to present some of the challenges that these farmers face in uptaking digital tools. And there are quite many, but we can share the common few challenges these farmers face right from their local villages. These farmers, you find they have challenges in mobile networks. You find in rural areas where these smallholder farmers are located, there is poor network. Can you imagine at times you visit a farmer without even a phone call, without even any communication because of the setup of his or her rural nature? There is also increasing poor computer literacy levels, especially among the older generation, where these young people have failed to adopt these technologies because they are not engaged fully, and most of them are looking at seeking for white-collar jobs, leaving their family gardens neglected. This is a very, very big challenge which we need to look at and address properly using a participatory research. There is inaccessible electricity. There is a lack of rural areas where farmers also incur extra costs on charging their phones. For example, here at Kayonza, we happen to witness Mr. Karumuna Benon, who failed to sell his products, especially banana and honey, because by the time the order was sent on the platform, his phone had been taken for charging to a distant center, and he ended up now not selling his products. So there are bigger challenges these farmers face in regards to data and technology. There is a slow uptake of digital tools. That is the long-running curve, especially for older generation farmers, as they find it difficult to interpret apps and data systems. For example, we are so happy for Producers Direct through its data system, Farm Direct. We witnessed one of our farmers, Mrs. Bijen's Charity, who is a tea and banana farmer, failed to use the Farm Direct tool because of failure to have a smartphone. So we try to help through the youth agents, helping in putting her analog data to digital for self-storage. But however, there is a need to also engage her fully to understand and get hands-on experience on using the same systems. There has been an insensitive to priorities where the available apps and platforms do not align with the farmers' priorities regarding what they face. So there is a need for full engagement and participatory research to understand what is best for these smallholder farmers, depending on what is available on their farms. There has been a challenge of data protection and security. In most cases, we face challenges with the farmers not trusting the sources of data, and also where they have to share the back personal data. We have witnessed examples, one of Mr. Biarohanga David, who refused to participate on our different platforms because he had fears that his information will be got by different sources and can be used by other parties for different reasons. So there are a lot of challenges, but this is our time now, is our call for sure to wake up and look at the available solutions to help these farmers, especially smallholder farmers, who face the same challenges. However, we continue to look at the tools which we think and realize worth for the smallholder farmers in case their voices are heard. We look at seeing e-library, which will help in retrieving, storing information to make it available from all sources to the farmers at all times. This will be in terms of audio, visual alternatives. We also look at mobile applications fully engaged from the start by these farmers through all stages that can be in line with their languages for these farmers to use them fully. We are also looking at the SMS and data tech solutions aiming at availing farmers information with analog tools and non-smartphone tools through establishment of databases, as well as availing call centers for these illiterate farmers. We have also looked at kiosks working as one-stop centers for marketed products, and as well getting market information, and other mobile plant clinic centers. We also look at village TVs for agriculture and local radios, which will help in instant and daily information flow on agricultural practices and markets. You imagine if a society had a village TV where they can look at filming success stories and failures in agriculture, and is portrayed weekly for these societies to understand and look at both sides on issues regarding their communities about the challenges. This would be a great step forward. However, we are also sure that with our voices being heard, we shall have a better marketing and pricing exposure, better information and awareness, reduction of agricultural risks, and enhanced incomes, and also reduced climate change effects, which has become a day-to-day challenge. We shall also have better quality products and services, timely information on weather forecasts and natural calamities will be addressed, and people will go down back to their seasons, and you find they are addressing climatic challenges. We shall also have informed decisions through record keeping and market information, as well as access to information on disease and pest controls in terms of early warning systems, new varieties, and new ways of optimizing agriculture. As earlier shared, serving farmers, stakeholders beyond technology transfer roles is our priority. We thank you so much for the offer, and we wish our voices will be heard and solutions will be made for these smallholder farmers. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. That was amazing insights, both into some of the very real challenges that you're seeing as we're testing these digital tools with farmers, but also inspiring kind of ideas on opportunities and way forwards as well. So thank you so much. And so we've heard from Christian on kind of all of the wealth of research and data that's out there. And we've heard from Kenneth on some of the challenges of actually getting that to farmers. And so now we're going to hear about Alex and the work that IDEO.org are doing and facilitating and supporting Producers Direct to do too, in terms of bridging that gap by investing in farmer-centered design processes. So Alex, welcome, over to you.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks, Kenneth. I I lament that I have to follow your share, which is based off of your lived experience as a farmer. I'm going to be sharing a bit about the framework of human-centered design and how it can be leveraged to build digital tools for smallholder farmers. This is something ICTforAg has worked on extensively with Producers Direct and with farmers such as Kenneth, as well as other partners in the region. So in 5 minutes, I'm going to try to do, you can go next, Claire. I'm going to try to do these 3 things. I don't know if Gertrude is able to.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think just making sure that the slides are working okay. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, great. So in 4 minutes and 40 seconds, I'm going to try to do these 3 things by giving an overview of a farming and digitization innovation project that we worked on with Producers Direct, how the design thinking approach can influence innovation in the sector, and how the approach can help overcome challenges of literacy and digital confidence, and then share a few insights about the challenges that farmers face in accessing and acting upon data, which Kenneth shared a bit of in his share, and I will build upon that. So before diving in, just want to give a quick overview of what human-centered design is. I'm sure a lot of folks on the call know, but maybe others don't. It's an approach to innovation that starts by listening to people and ends with solutions tailored to meet their needs. Often we are designing solutions based off of productivity or an end goal that has to do with systemic needs. If you think about an education system or a medical system, and human-centered design is really trying to get at what users need, what users want, and designing the system starting there rather than the other way around. So you can go to the next slide. Great. It focuses on creating solutions that are desirable, feasible, and viable. So we're really looking to be at the center of that 3-way Venn diagram. And we're always starting with desirability, or what users want and what they need. And if you click again, Gertrude, you can see sort of an image of what this phased approach of human-centered design looks like. We move through research and inspiration building, then we build insights that we can actually design around. We call those design opportunities. And then we actually take those ideas and we test them in the field over and over and over again to really make sure that they are what users need, or in this case, that they're farmer-centered. Go to the next slide. This is just a bit of context in terms of ICTforAg's work in the region. We have been fortunate to partner on over 20 farmer-centered projects, everything from building smart sensors for irrigation to connecting farmers to markets, credit, and digital communities. You can go next. Great. So now that we know a little bit about HCD, I'm going to cite Crappie again, which Claire already gave a bit of context on. And I'm going to walk us through our design research, behavioral research work on this innovation, specifically with the lens of how we helped or how we're hoping to help farmers overcome challenges of literacy and digital confidence. You can go next. Great. So Claire shared a bit already about the hypothesis and purpose of Crappie, helping farmers predict yield and gain insights on how to plan and build for resilience. So I'm going to talk a bit about the process of incorporating behavioral research. So when we set out to design Crappie, which at the start we didn't know was going to become this product, we used the HCD and behavioral research process to meet farmers where they are. You'll remember Claire sort of sharing that visual of the written logbooks that farmers use. And we set out to learn more about what farmers need from their voices and from their perspectives, right? So testing our assumptions, because often when you're going into the field to build a product or a service, you have a lot of assumptions about what you think users might need. And so it's all about testing those assumptions and then testing a solution that might support the livelihood of these farmers while also acknowledging the constraints. So we decided to conduct our research with youth, next generation growers who are primary users of smartphones and digital tools. And through research and many, many feedback loops, we built this digital app prototype. Initially, it was quite low fidelity. And then as we continued to test, it became higher fidelity to see if this kind of technology actually can bring real value to growers. And building and testing the product alongside farmers allowed us to really see how growers are engaging with the platform, engaging with the different components of the tool, and figure out how to continuously adapt and evolve the tool to better serve them and better serve their literacy needs as well. Go to the next slide. Great. So I want to make sure that I save time for our panel. So I'm going to close with just a few insights in terms of challenges faced by farmers attempting to access and act upon data. I'm happy to answer more questions during the Q&A because this will be just kind of a summary. And these insights come from our collaboration with Producers Direct and also our work across the region over the past decade. It's worth noting before diving into specific challenges faced by farmers, two overarching themes that are really central to our continued innovation for marginalized communities in the ag sector. The first of those themes is the importance of gender transformative design, which in short is really just that if you're not designing specifically for women, you're designing for men. And many of you know, if you are in this space, in this sector, that female farmers face a number of constraints in accessing agricultural inputs, services, and markets that make it really difficult for them to rely on ag production as a pathway for livelihood. And gender inequality in agriculture stifles productivity, growth, and threatens food security. And so something that we try to keep in mind in our work with Producers Direct around crappie, but just more generally, is how do we approach some of these questions with a lens of gender transformative design? And then the second is the importance of designing for digital confidence. I'm going to drop a link in the chat. I don't know, Claire, if everyone will be able to access this.
Yeah, we can arrange that, Alex. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, not assuming that just because you're putting a digital tool that's easy to use in front of folks who aren't familiar with those types of platforms, that they're going to feel confident in using that tool. And so really thinking about what are the behavioral mindsets and shifts that we can sort of support in terms of building confidence in using digital tools, and particularly in this case with farmers themselves. All right, so a few insights just in terms of challenges for farmers. I think the first that really came out of our research is that the learning curve around digitization and leveraging data can be really steep. Kenneth mentioned this as well. In the short term, this can negatively affect yield or productivity, which can lead to farmer hesitation. Another insight from our research is that farmers, or at least the farmers that we are working with and have been speaking with in the research for crappie, are excited to build community and networks and to rely on their communities and networks. And technology can offer an easier path to social network building in theory, but in practice, it's actually much more difficult to build consistent engagement with a social tool, especially given the requirements of farming as a livelihood day to day. The third challenge is the absence of legal and regulatory frameworks around agricultural data and how that can lead to concerns and mistrust for farmers as the data contributors around how those third parties are collecting, aggregating, and sharing their data, even if the end use case is to be able to help them better predict yields or natural movements, et cetera. Fourth insight around challenges is that technologies are increasingly being developed in a global market, although they're meant to be applied at the farm level. And so contextualization is not always appropriate, and it's not always actually thought of as intentionally as it needs to be for a tool to be valuable and not harmful to the farmers themselves. And then the last insight, which I think is kind of interesting, is that data and mechanization in the ag sector has often prioritized increased production, increased productivity, increased profits. And obviously these things are really important to farmers, but there's also a need to prioritize sustainability of land, sustainability of environment. And so often farmers are faced with the tension of wanting to use mechanization to increase their yield, to increase their profit, but they also have to think about the sustainability of their land and how these tools might be affecting their land, which is their livelihood. All right, I'll stop there. Looking forward to engaging further with the other panelists and the audience on some of these thoughts.
Thank you so much, Alex. That's a fantastic insight into the process. And I think it moves us nicely on to Davis, Youth Agribusiness Coordinator with Producers Direct, who essentially from the Producers Direct side has been leading all of these human-centered design processes with the youth groups and farmers groups that we're working with across East Africa. So you'll just see some images there from Alex's slides, just so you can get an insight into what that looks like on the ground. So Davis, just checking that you're connected and the mic's working okay. Over to you.
Thank you. I hope you can all hear me. So, hello
Yes,
everyone.
we can hear you loud and clear, Davis.
Thank you, Claire. So, hello everyone. Such a delight and my pleasure to be speaking to such a distinguished audience today. You can see we are many of us, and I'm happy to see all of you. As mentioned, once again, I'm Davis Gatumbe, a youthful agri-entrepreneur and the Youth Agribusiness Coordinator at Producers Direct. So for today, I'll be highlighting on the opportunities the youth can play in bridging the gap between tech and smallholder farmers. At Producers Direct, not only do we believe that the youth can play a role in bridging this gap, but we have also invested in a network of hundreds of youth spread across East Africa and Latin America to do the same. As per the most recent statistics, the average age of a farmer in the UK is 59. In Kenya, my home country, the average age of a farmer is 60. And in Japan, it's as high as 67. From this, it's clear to see that the world's farming population is increasingly getting older, and young people are increasingly choosing city life. This is leading to an aging crisis threatening farming, where we find that for every young farmer, we have as much as 13 older farmers. At the same time, Kenneth, my able colleague and fellow farmer, has highlighted some of the key challenges that farmers face in uptaking digital tools. Among some of the challenges is mentioned are low literacy levels among farmers, among the older generation farmers. And also, actually, Alex has also mentioned this, that there's a slow uptake of digital tools, or we notice a long learning curve for some of the older generation farmers. In Africa, you see, the youth are the largest demographic, and we must also agree that the youth are more exposed to tech and globalization trends. Therefore, we believe that if we capitalize on some of these facts, we can actually work with the youth to bridge the gap between tech and smallholder farmers, while at the same time, we are empowering the next generation of future farmers. Some of the ways by which at Producers Direct we are working with the youth include, first, we have youth in data. And the youth in data, we must agree actually that meaningful data is used to support smarter and more informed on-farm decision making. At Producers Direct, we work with the youth within our network of produce organizations, and we empower them and train them to collect logbook data on a monthly basis from farmers within our same network. And once this data is analyzed with our team, the same youth share back visualization and information with the farmers that can be used to support better on-farm decision making. Number two, youth in data, we have youth in market access, where we have a market access service at Producers Direct at each of our centers of excellence or at our producer organization. And our market access service is powered by our youth network. So we employ a youth agent model where youth are empowered to provide market linkages and opportunities via digital platform, which you had been mentioned a couple of times, Farm Direct. Yeah. We also have youth agri-entrepreneurs within our network. And at Producers Direct, we support and mentor youth enterprises, youthful entrepreneurs within our producer network. And for example, at Kayonza Tea Growers, where Kenneth is from, we've been able to support a number of youth to get rota loans to support in their beekeeping. Rota is a coined up term that means receive opportunities to advance, and some youth have been able to benefit from this. We also last year ran a youth in agribiz competition, where we had such amazing innovations. For example, we had the IB, the innovation that won, that is led by two youthful entrepreneurs, Clinton Odwor and Jacqueline Tum from Dedan Kimathi University in Kenya. And this winning duo have benefited from our support and our mentorship. The last way in which the producers direct we work with the youth is through some youth innovation hubs, supporting youth innovation hubs. And I'm proudly going to mention, like, Kenneth is actually the chairman of Kayonza Youth Innovation Hub. And this is a registered community-based organization that actually educates, inspires, motivates, and trains young aspiring entrepreneurs to be, the future farmers and future leaders of tomorrow. So Kenneth is able to lead about 689 youth with about 11 micro enterprises being undertaken by those youth. So working with this network of youth agents, rural youth, and youth agri entrepreneurs that I've mentioned, we do not offload our program activities onto them, but we actually work together in designing of digital tools that they will use. We run co-design workshops and with the youth. Actually, Alex has mentioned that we've gone through several feedback loops, and actually those are the design workshops we've been running with this youth network. And this ensures that we actually benefit from locally led development and human-centered design approaches. I'd like to share some of the key lessons we've learned from some of these workshops. And as we continue to develop Croppy and Farm Direct, our in-house tool. So one of the lessons we've learned is, for example, the look or the visuals rural farmers prefer on digital tools. And from some brand testing prototype workshops, we've actually come to learn that smallholders prefer simplistic and easy to read tools and materials. And also they actually prefer animation to pass across information. Another second learning we've come to learn is the feel or usability of deployed digital tools that farmers like. And from our screen flow test, we've come to learn that farmers have different levels of literacy. And farmers actually like, for example, things such as pop-up suggestions when they're searching for issues on digital tools or digital apps. Another third learning we've had is we've designed and tested different use cases that will encourage smallholder farmers to fast use or access digital applications. And for example, we've learned that receiving free farm advice can encourage farmers to actually upload photos or upload their own data of their crops. Another learning we've had is actually leveraging on social interactions such as likes, comments, and peer-to-peer networking, and such things such as social recognition and leaderboards encourage repeated use of digital tools by farmers. So, and actually this we learned from some incentive test workshops that we've carried out with farmers. Lastly, one other learning we've had is about, and Kenneth talked about this, data protection and security concerns for farmers. We've come to learn, like, what data do farmers prefer sharing, what data do don't farmers like sharing out. So that has been quite another key useful learning that we've come to learn. Yeah. So in summary, you see that as producers direct, we firmly believe in the youth as the future tech and agriculture leaders of tomorrow. And that's why we work tirelessly to support the youth of today and to empower them, not only to be a bridge between tech and smallholder farmers, but also to bring about much needed change to our food system. And therefore, I encourage organizations that are listening to us today and they have a similar outlook and goals to us, encourage you to partner and work together with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Davis. Fantastic insights and lessons learned there. So the majority of the rest of today's session is all about discussion and questions and answers. And we've had some great questions come in so far from the audience. So please, I'm encouraging everyone to keep sharing your questions. I think to kickstart, we have some questions that actually our panelists want to challenge each other on. So we'll spend a few moments on kind of the panelists asking their questions to each other, and then we'll open it up and go to some of the questions that are coming in from the audience. So do please keep sharing. So I think, Davis, I'm going to go to you first because I think you have a question or a challenge to Alex. So over to you. Hopefully the mics are still working well.
Yep, Alex, hoping you can hear me well. So I've talked a little about our model, how we work, and our approach. So I wanted to ask you, like, where do you see the strengths of our approach, and where do you see future opportunities to scale with focus on putting farmers at the center of this innovation process?
Yeah, it's a good question, Davis. I mean, I think co-design is a very sexy term in the human-centered design space right now, this idea of sort of bringing more of a participatory lens into the research process, right? Rather than having designers from outside of a certain context come in, do some research, go out, make decisions in a closed room, and then take those concepts back to the field to be tested. I think there's a movement now, and I observe Producers Direct to be sort of at the forefront of this movement of not just bringing farmers into the conversation during the research process, but actually moving from participatory design to community-led design. And so making sure that there are many moments built into the research process where Producers Direct or IDEO.org or any other individuals who are sort of providing the container for a prototype to be built are actually ceding decision-making power, right? So no longer the designers or the startup or nonprofit partner, the ones who are making calls around a prototype or around a product or a service, but actually farmers themselves are saying, like, here's what we need. And I think that this insight is the insight to be prioritized. And I think that this shift to the prototype is the decision we should go with. And then, IDEO.org or Producers Direct, we really become the facilitators or sometimes, the manpower around designing a prototype as it's been dictated to us by farmers or by users. And it's not always the case that our partners, at least at IDEO.org, are so willing to try out that format because it's radically different, right, than going into a closed room and designing a thing and taking it back into the field and having so much control over the process. And Producers Direct has been so eager and so willing and so hungry to take risks so that we can move towards more community-led design in the products that we are prototyping. And so that has been really incredible to observe, and I think is a big reason why we've been working with Producers Direct for so many years now, and we'll continue to collaborate. Yeah, and then I think opportunities for continued growth. Yeah, I think it's easier said than done, right, to create these containers for authentically community-led design and to engage farmers in this case in ways that feel respectful to their livelihood, to their needs, to all of the juggling they're doing in their day-to-day lives in the interest of building, a product or a service. And so I think there's always room to grow there, and I'm excited to see how Producers Direct is able to continue evolving alongside the farmers who are leading some of the research.
Thanks so much, Alex. That's a great answer. And I think definitely highlighting the point, always easier said than done. I think even just knowing whether or not it would be possible to connect with Kenneth today has been a challenge, which I think exemplifies, this kind of scale of the challenge that we're collectively looking to address. So Kenneth, on that note, I think there's a question that you wanted to challenge Christian on. So I will give the floor to you. Hopefully the connection is working okay.
Yep. Thank you so much once again. Having brought up the challenges that farmers face in their localities, we have highlighted a need of participatory research. And I'd like to pose a question to Christian. Basing on the farming model and that participatory research, in most cases, people have made research and you find the owners don't owe it. they don't own the research or they don't get feedback from the research that has been made. So I'd like to pose a question to understand how you are going to ensure or how you can ensure that smallholder farmers benefit from the research that you really focus on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kenneth. It's a common frustration that the research goes out, looks for farmer knowledge, and then nothing comes back. And of course, part of that is an institutional issue where we get paid for research, but not for outreach. Now with climate change, this is becoming a fundamental problem because we're constantly behind the curve when it comes to adaptation. Our entire knowledge system as it's built goes from, say, like academia develops something and then it trickles down through the knowledge systems in the different countries when eventually an extensionists distribute the knowledge and trainings to the producers. And with climate change, we need to be ahead of the curve. We need to become much faster as the climate is evolving, and that's why we're looking into ICT tools. I'm not a particular fan of cell phones, anything. I really want that our knowledge that we developed maybe even 10 years ago, and it still hasn't reached farmers, and that's a state that is unsustainable. That is something that we need to urgently change, and that's why we're in this collaboration with Producers Direct and IDEO, and that's why we want to integrate the knowledge that we get from farmers into a solution that goes both ways, where insights get generated through the use of the tools and get fed back to the producers so that they can directly profit as they participate in the program. So for me, it's about speed. It's about accelerating this process because climate change is picking up speed, and we need to get this knowledge urgently out there. So that's why we're looking into the ICT tools. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Christian. And I'm sure our panelists have got any kind of other challenges and questions for each other. If what I'm going to do is also open it up now to audience questions to make sure that there's enough time for those. But please, panelists, come in if there's anything you want to respond to as we're going along. Kenneth, you're in hot demand for questions, so just wanted to check and make sure that you are ready to answer the first one. Kenneth, do we have you online? Is that working? Yeah, okay, so Kenneth, a question from the audience. You'd mentioned in your presentation that digital tools are insensitive to the actual priorities of farmers. Could you please share a few more examples of when that has happened? And what do you think are the farmer priorities that currently digital tool development is missing? Just checking, Kenneth, did you get me okay on that one?
Hello.
Hi, Kenneth. Did you get the question okay?
Not really. You can repeat it for me.
Yeah, sure. I'll repeat the question. So this is an audience question. Kenneth, you'd mentioned in your presentation that digital tools are not always sensitive to farmer priorities. Can you give some examples of where digital tools are currently missing and not meeting farmer priorities?
Thank you so much. As earlier shared, these tools are designed right from the places where these people are centered. In most cases, that's why we think of participatory engagement, where these other farmers are engaged right from the beginning on the tools that really work for them. In most cases, most people bring up tools that are within the language that farmers actually don't even understand. That's why we opt for engagement, full engagement, that these tools are designed after clear understanding with the right users of the tools, because the end user is the best point when it comes to designing such tools. At the end of it all, these are the right people who want to use the tools. So there must be a bigger understanding on the language and the priorities, the tools that can work for them. So there has to be a decision right from grassroots with the farmers.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Kenneth.
you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So another audience question is about the accessibility of data. So Christian, I'm coming to you on that one, just checking that your mic is on and working. So this question, and this is from Victor, and he's a data scientist. Data is hard to come by in Africa. Even if the availability, even if available data is there, it's not open sourced. And sometimes requests need to be put into the government to be able to access the data. Can you recommend any platforms where there is good access to African agricultural data? Victor, hopefully I've represented your question okay. If not, please share in the chat. So Christian, over to you.
No, there is no single place where I can point to. Yes, data is highly unreliable, and that is a challenge. That is also part of something that we want to address in our collaboration around CROPy, where we want to estimate yield through ICT funds and reduce the cost of generating data. That is a key challenge for us, to get large data sets that. So there, I mean, on the one hand, there is a wealth of data, all the satellite data coming in, all the Earth observation data coming in for climate observations, so that we could theoretically use to inform decisions. But the ground data, the field data, is lacking. And in our work with Producers Direct and the CROPy project funded by GIZ, we will collect yield data using AI tools from pictures and have lean surveys, so that we can get that data and link it to all that on the other hand existing wealth of data, such as satellite data, to then be able to support decision making through trends observation, projections, and so forth. So unfortunately, there is no single source that we can point to, and that's a challenge that we specifically try to address in our daily work, and it's unfortunately often overlooked. Thank you for the question.
Thanks so much, Christian. And so the next question, there's a few questions coming in on gender and how we design to address the kind of the gender gap. So Alex, I'm going to go to you first on this question. So the question, and this is from Brenda, the great challenge is bridging the digital gender divide gap. What is it that we're doing in our design processes to help address and bridge that gap?
This is a really complex question without answers, I think, yet. And so the first thing that I'll say in terms of where we work to bridge that gap in the design process is really approaching, even before our research, when we're scoping or trying to understand who we want to speak with to better understand a design challenge or a problem, constantly wearing a devil's advocate hat. And I hope that idiom makes sense to most on the call, but really approaching our research with the understanding that women are often excluded from conversations, are often marginalized from access to tools, experiences, resources, and are often maybe not going to be the ones who are easiest to get in touch with for research. And this exists in many sectors, but specifically agriculture. And so really putting a lot of our energy into trying to build parity into the individuals we're speaking with when we go into the field for research, into the individuals that we're testing with, and also taking into consideration that often if we're trying to do research in communities at large, there's a lot of perspectives that may be carried by women that are lost if we are attempting to do a research interview in a broader group, right, with husbands or community leaders present, et cetera. And so I think there's no clear answer. It's a massive issue and it extends broadly across systems, not just at specific sectoral levels, but playing devil's advocate and sort of entering research with this lens of, you know, if we're not designing for women, we're designing only for men, and where are we missing the perspectives of women as we move through behavioral research?
Thanks so much, Alex. And there's a second part of that question, which I'm going to go to Davis on first, and then Kenneth as well. So the second question directed at the work that we're doing to support women specifically with Producers Direct and the work with Farm Direct is how are we working as Producers Direct and with our youth agents to actually directly support women and ensure that we're increasing the efficiency of their farming, productivity, and market access. So Davis, and then Kenneth, if you have anything to add on that, what specifically are we doing to support women? Davis, over to you.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah, so truth be told, yes, there's a digital gender gap, and we've noticed this actually practically working on ground and in the field. But then again, I like that at Producers Direct, we are a women-led organization. So be sure that actually we consciously incorporate women into, you know, our activities and our programs. So for example, we have a kitchen gardening project that actually is largely for women. And from this, we are working on our market plan.
Oh, Davis, I think you've just gone on to mute. So you've hit mute. So maybe if
sorry.
you could unmute yourself. Okay, yeah, we've got you back.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, we actually have some programs that are specifically designed for women, and we consciously actually not only we actually consciously incorporate women into all the activities that we do. For example, even starting with the youth agents that we use, we actually have a role to have a 50-50 split between men and women for the youth that we work with. And then again, on some of the activities the youth are engaged in, for example, I mentioned youth in market access on our platform, Farm Direct, that provides market linkages. We have the kitchen gardening crops, whereby we are trying to provide women with market access for some of their crops. So yeah, within our trainings and within even our finance, for example, when we give out trota loans, we incorporate women on a 50-50 basis.
Thanks so much, Davis. And Kenneth, I'll go to you in a minute. Just to say, we've got a few minutes more for questions. So if people do have questions in the audience, please do keep adding them to the chat, and we'll try and cover as many as possible in the last few minutes. So Kenneth, over to you. Do you have anything to add on to Davis's points?
Yes. Through our producer organizations, we make sure we don't leave women behind, and that's why we also bring in the youth agents to help these women to interpret the data, share their data, and provide them with analog record-keeping books where we transform their analog records into digital, and for them to have to make informed decisions. So we are so happy that even when it comes to rota, these women have great chances, and they are really utilizing them. Their first priority is for women, then men came after, they just come in after these women. Even the percentage is different. So as to entice them, to motivate them to keep in agriculture and keep producing. When it comes to the products we really look at. Some women are in banana, others are in mushrooms, others are in kitchen gardens. So there is a really, really big percentage increase in women involvement. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kenneth. So one other question now from the audience, and I'm going to go to Christian on this first, just because he's been doing a lot on actually developing research and technology, but if any of the other panelists want to come in after, please feel free. So the question is, recognizing that living income improvements have not alleviated poverty in poorer countries, who is actually paying for all of this technology development?
Yeah, a tricky question, right? Ideally, of course, well, we're looking into collaborations always with tech companies in the target countries. So at the moment, we're looking into partners for Uganda. We're looking at partners in Colombia and South America in general, not only about the tech development, so that ideally it's locally owned and locally developed. We just plant the seed and hopefully something bigger grows out of it. A good thing is that some of these solutions have low maintenance costs, comparatively low maintenance costs, and what we're doing is really we have all this research sitting in our shelves. It is also a new knowledge problem, but it's very often a knowledge delivery problem that we're trying to solve. So we try to bridge this last mile because there have been millions going into science, billions, literally billions going into science, and it doesn't reach the people who need to know about this stuff, and it's not being translated into solutions for them. So so I would maybe even push back. This is really a no-brainer. Going this last mile is what leverages all that investment that's already been done. That's all that's already been sunk. So let's go this last mile and use all that data that we have and make it available. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Christian. And I think as well, just to add from the producer's direct perspective, I think one of the things that's really important in the way that we approach the design of these digital tools and solutions is that we always start from the farmer's realities. So if farmers don't own smartphones, then we start on pen and paper. If a farmer just has a basic feature phone and not a smartphone, that's where we start our design process. So we do that deliberately to make sure that we're not putting pressure on farmers to actually have to invest in more technology or put more money into technology when they're not clear what benefits they're going to realize as a result of that investment. So that's also really key. So I think we're almost at the end of our session, and I want to go to the panelists one final time to share one concluding remark or key message to this audience before I wrap up and share next steps. I just wanted to thank everyone for all of the questions. We'd be delighted that everyone's really engaged in this panel, and thank you so much for the great feedback. And of course, there'll be many opportunities to continue the conversation. So what I'm going to ask all of our panelists to do one by one is just very quickly share one recommendation or take-home message that they want this audience who's listening now to really hear. And so Davis, I'm going to go to you first, and then Alex, I'll go to you next, Kenneth, and then Christian. So Davis, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. So I'll mention again, it's been such a pleasure and actually a delight to be speaking to this audience, and I'm glad, and I'm hoping that some conversations shall arise from this forum, and actually also thanking the organizers for the ICT4Ag conference for this. So what I'd say is together with at Producers Direct, together with our partner organizations, IDEO and CIAT, you've seen that we truly believe in our design approach that is not only coming out from us or being offloaded to farmers, but we've actually tried and tested it out. And we're actually having some really good tangible results out of it and creating some really good tools. So actually for me, it's a challenge to any of the speakers or any of the organizations that are here today. If you share a similar outlook and you'd like to partner and work together with us, kindly feel free to contact us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Davis. Alex, one take home for the audience from you.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Yeah, I want to say thanks for holding this space, Claire, and I especially want to say thanks to Davis and Kenneth. I think it's rare that folks are able to learn from and be educated by individuals with lived experience, and I just really appreciate you jumping through all the tech hoops and everything to teach us, the panelists and the audience. One piece of advice or recommendation. There's a phrase that I really love that we use in design research, which is the more you know, the less you know, you know. I'll say it again. The more you know, the less you know, you know. Which is basically to say, like, be curious, always assume that your assumptions are wrong, and move into understanding through that lens. I think our world is changing so rapidly. If anything, you know, the past 2.5 years have been a testament to that. And folks are innovating every day to figure out how to continue their livelihoods despite that. And I think there's so much to learn from individuals with lived experience who are being faced by these challenges day to day. So stay curious.
Thanks so much, Alex. Kenneth, just checking, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Okay, Kenneth, one final message from your perspective for the audience, please.
Thank you so much. Once again, I'm delighted to be part of this event. Actually, I've learned a lot and I will share a lot from it. And one key message I would like to pose to the viewers, the listeners, is that farmers are crying because of the oppression of the middlemen, and this has been brought up by failure to know the information, failure to have the tools that can really help them. So with this, I know if we work together, we can make our farmers better. We rather don't quit now for our farmers to win in their near future. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Kenneth. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, which obviously takes you away from your farm. So we really appreciate that. Christian, one final thought from your side.
Yeah, for me, the discussion today again emphasized, showed that behind all that data, there are always humans that work on that we look at it, well, from in climate science, we look at global climate change, we look at the impacts at the global level, and it's so hard to translate that into what it means to individuals, what that means to their farm businesses, to their family's life, and the tough decisions that they're facing. It's easy to say, look, you're under pressure, but it's so much harder to find a solution, to say there are hazards coming your way and from climate change, but finding solutions and keeping in mind that families with children may need to entirely change the way they lead their life. Yeah, the tools we're using here, the ICT tools, we hope we can translate some of that climate science into meaningful information for these people so that they can understand what this abstract thing, climate change, may mean for their business, so that they can take better informed decisions. But it's really, really hard, and I'm really delighted that we're in this collaboration, which makes it easier for us to have a conversation that includes the farmers on the ground and their realities. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. And so I just wanted to share a few final words to wrap up. But maybe before I do that, just to a quick plug, if the audience could please share their feedback on this session through the poll, which I think you should have access to through Hoover. That would be great. Be wonderful to get your feedback on what you thought of the session. You know, we're always iterating and redesigning, so it'd be great to get that feedback. Maybe just a few reflections from my side. As hopefully everyone will have heard today, there's a huge potential for data and technology solutions to transform smallholder livelihoods. But let's listen to Kenneth. That's not currently happening, and it's only going to happen if we're putting farmers at the center of the design and development process. It will only happen if we design from the realities of smallholder farmers and ensure that the digital tools and data services that we're designing and prioritizing are actually meeting the farmers' needs and priorities, the point that Kenneth was making. And so the digital tools need to work for farmers in disconnected, low connectivity areas, and the data services that are provided need to be clear. It needs to be clear what you do with the data, and that data needs to be in an actionable format. And so really, we need to all be investing in supporting farmers to understand the value of the data and the data that they could be using, and take ownership of it. Really put farmers at the center and in leadership positions as we design these digital solutions. And I think the other point to reiterate is also is an appeal to the funders and the donors out there as well. So essentially, it takes time, it takes patience, it takes a lot of iterations to design these digital tools. And we're really grateful for the donors out there who recognize that and fund innovation and iteration, just as we've seen from some of the donors that have been supporting Producers Direct over the years, including GIZ with CROPI and the World Food Programme Innovation Accelerator for Farm Direct. And so maybe just to wrap with a few thank yous. Firstly, a big thank you to all of our panelists today. Hopefully everyone will agree that fantastic insights, and really grateful for taking the time today to share your perspective and experience with us all. And thank you to everyone who's joined. It's been wonderful to engage with you all in this session. We just also wanted to appreciate all of the donors who support Producers Direct, and also all of the partners who are here today, CIAT, IDEO.org, and Kayonza as well. And essentially also recognizing our incredible network of smallholder producer organizations that Producers Direct works with across East Africa and Latin America. Because essentially without this network, none of the work that we're doing or the insight or the innovation would be possible. And so, we're always energized by working with such an inspiring, diverse group of smallholder farmers internationally. Just in terms of next steps, for those of you who've enjoyed the session and would like to follow up with us, perhaps you're working with smallholder farmers and you see opportunities for collaboration, or perhaps you're representing a donor organization and you've been inspired by our session today and want to learn more, then please get in touch with us here. I think the details hopefully should be shared. So producersdirect.org, and we'll also link you with the other partners who've been on the call today. So we very much look forward to hearing with you, to working with you, and jointly working together to put the power of data and digital solutions firmly into the hands of smallholder farmers worldwide. Thanks so much for all of your time and energy today. Thank you.